Hello everyone, Simon here. Welcome back to the architecture of Deus Ex Mankind Divided. In this video, we are in London. We are in a building called the Apex Centre. It's a convention centre, right in the middle of London. So the Apex Centre is a fictional building, but we are in a more or less real location as we look around. Oh, you might spot some landmarks out in the distance. So, first of all, let's talk about these wiggly towers. And there's a lot of them. There's another one there. Oh, and another one there. What are these? They're not part of the Apex Center, but they're like around it. Maybe they are part of it, but they're just kind of like towers around the building that we're currently on. I think they are meant to be residential apartment towers. They're fictional, if you don't know. If you don't know what London looks like. they don't exist in London. So these are fictional. It looks interesting, right? Look at that. Oh, interesting shape. I think the helical shape is supposed to evoke the structure of DNA. Maybe. I mean, there's not that many helical things that you can reference, you know. So maybe it's something to do with DNA. I do have to say though, it's not a very efficient use of the building footprint, because you have like look at the tower. There's like there's like rings, and then they're kind of the floors kind of, they're like that, and then they kind of become that, and then they become that again. So they kind of like, but they're not using the whole circular footprint of the building. So it looks interesting, but it's kind of wasteful in terms of how much space it takes up in the city versus how much floor space you have in total, right? Yeah. But it looks futuristic. It looks cool, right? Yeah, so if you can see, I don't know if you can see very clearly. Let me just step out here, if I can. So we have like a ring facing us, and then a ring facing the other way, so they're 90 degrees offset. And then another ring facing us, another ring, so it's like a chain, like a metal chain, where you have links joining up. And that's the shape of the building. And then, what happens then, if I get my sniper rifle out, ordinary rifle. So if you zoom in a little bit, you see how that's empty? We can see through to the other side, through the ring, and if I look up there, so they're like big empty balconies inside the rings, right? It's actually quite, like, geometrically it's very clever, because like residential buildings, you kind of want a feeling of spaciousness. Like, people don't like being crammed in, and so then you have like outdoor spaces, and then you have like plenty of, like, this building has a lot of surface area, so you have a lot of windows looking out. So for a building this size, it has a lot of surface area. Again, inefficient, but it's the sort of thing that a luxury apartment might want, because people want to have a lot of windows with great views, right? But then you have problems like, for example, where's the elevator shaft? Have you thought about this? Because an elevator shaft, usually, you have an elevator that goes all the way up and down the whole building, right? But if you look clearly, there is no single part of this building where it's just continuous all the way up. So there, through that bit, and then there's a gap, and then there's that bit, and then there's the same for the other side on the ring, and then closer to the middle there's like a gap, and then it's through that bit, and then another gap, and it's through that bit and a gap. So wherever if you look straight down at the building, it's a circular plan, and no matter where you try to put the elevator shaft, there's like big gaps, no matter where you choose. Like, there's no single point in the footprint where there's a solid building all the way up. And so there's actually no elevator shaft in this building, unless the elevators go like up there, and you have to walk, and then you can go up here, and then you have to walk. So like, there's actually no place to put the elevator. And I don't think the person who made this building ever thought of this, because they're not real architects. Like, a real architect would look at this and immediately say, oh, where's the elevator shaft? but they're artists, and they're not real architects, and so they don't think about building efficiency, they don't think about services, they don't think about structure. Structurally, this thing is also inefficient, by the way, because again, with buildings, you want a column to go straight up. Like, you have columns going straight up, and that resists gravity, and that's the most efficient way to hold something up, right? Whereas this, you have diagonal braces going up, which is less efficient than just a straight column. And then the rings themselves, again, they don't have any straight lines going all the way up, and so the column kind of have to sit on a ring, and then it goes to the next column, which is on another ring. So like the structure is inefficient. There's no stairwells. It's like the building, the exterior surface area is very large. So all of this is inefficient for a building this size. But you don't worry about any of that because it looks cool. This is not designed by a real architect. And the person who designed this didn't think about any of this stuff, clearly. Because if they did, they wouldn't design it like this. Conceivably, you can have like a glass elevator in a tube going through the middle, and so then like you go inside the building and outside the building and inside the building, outside the building as you go through the holes, and then maybe you'd have like bridges from the glass elevator to the apartments on either side. That could be cool too. That could be cool, but it's not there, right? If you look closely, there's no glass elevator in the middle. So they could have done it. They could have solved the problem, kind of, but they didn't. They could have put like verticals through the building, maybe like from there. So there's like square boxes in the middle of the ring. They could have put like a vertical column joining all the square boxes, and so then there'll be like 4, maybe even like 8 columns that actually go all the way up. If they put like a column in the middle and a column in the corner, and that would provide a more efficient structure for the building than this stuff. And then the helix things would just be like a supplementary structure. So they could have solved these problems. They could have just like adjusted the design a little bit, and they could have kind of answered all these architect questions, but they didn't. Anyway, it's a sort of architecture that maybe like a first year architecture student, or maybe even a second year architecture student, the sort of thing that, you know, like an architecture student who hasn't studied architecture for very long, they would design something like this. Before they had to go to structure class and building services class and everything else. Like once you go through all these classes, then you realize, oh, this is actually not going to work, and then like this thing is like unnecessarily expensive. No one's going to pay you to do unnecessarily expensive things, and so anyway, flashback to architecture school. Okay, amateur architecture. So if we look around, we have the London Eye over there, right? And then down here, look at that, we have the Tower Bridge there, and that's City Hall, right? So if we look at all of those, we can pretty much pinpoint where we are in London. Let me just load this up. We have like City Hall, we have Tower Bridge, London Eye. Where's the map? Oh, this is London. Let me zoom out a little bit. If you don't know where London is. So we have Europe, we have the UK, London is the capital of the UK, and if we zoom in into the middle of London, Tower Bridge is there, the City Hall is there, and the London Eye is further around there. So if you base it on the Tower Bridge and the City Hall, which is there and there, we are probably around about here, and this is the London Bridge Station right here. I wonder if I can like look at this stuff. So if I come down here, let me get a street view here. So there's the Tower Bridge, looks like that, and there it is down there. And then if I turn around, right, there's that blobby thing, the City Hall. There's that blobby thing there. I think the London Eye is in the wrong place. We can't actually see the London Eye from the street, from anywhere nearby. We have to be much closer to it. So I think they've moved the London Eye. They kind of fudged this a little bit, just to fit the London Eye into the panorama. London Eye. Let me come down here and take a look at it. Turn around that way. There's trees in the way. No, silly trees. It's not. London Eye is actually not that catchy. Like I guess it's a cloudy day. It's often cloudy in London. So it's kind of white on white, so it's not that visible. But there's a London Eye. It's fudged a little bit in the game, I think, because I don't think it's actually that big. It's nowhere near that big. It's further away and not that big. So they fudged it. But it looks good like that in the game if you don't think too closely about it. So I think it should be further that way, and it should be smaller. We are, as I said, probably somewhere here. So we're probably like right there on the London Bridge station. And the London Bridge station is a train station, which looks like that from the ground. You can't really see the roof. I mean, you can kind of see a bit of the roof. Down here, it's very historical, the style of it, but the roof is rather futuristic, although you don't see it. Over there is the Shard. So there's a big-ass glass tower, the Shard. Possibly what's going on in the game is that the Apex Center has taken the place of the Shard. So instead of the Shard in the real world, we have the Apex Center in the game. It's not clear what the Apex Center looks like either, because we are on it and we can't look outside of it. Based on the roof, this looks like a very conventional roof, but then there's like a glass pyramid there, and the Shard is a big glass pyramid. So I mean, it's kind of similar, but it's not quite the same shape. And then there's this bit which is not in the real world. So kind of the real world, but not really. Okay, so let's talk about this video game level. We arrive at the helipad. So in Deus Ex, you always travel around by that plane, the vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. We arrive at the helipad. The helipad has big lights and also firefighting equipment, just in case. The roof itself is quite ordinary. You can't really tell what the architecture looks like from up here. It's just a lot of equipment, the kind of equipment you expect to find, like a communications tower. What is that? Gas? Heating? Is that heating? I think that's heating. And like electrical equipment, and then like I don't know what that is. Air conditioning? More heating? A bunch of fans there. So ventilation equipment. There's a little bit of a machine room here. Not sure what's going on in here. And then there's like a small patch of solar panels. I don't know what they power with these solar panels, but they're not going to power very much. Because it's just not enough panels to run the building. It could be like the emergency lighting. I don't know. But there's not enough panels there to do anything. And then there's something equipment in here. Okay, so that's the roof. Not too interesting. And really nothing unexpected. Let's go inside. Where? Oh, this way. So from the helipad, we go to the elevator. First up, the CSO, which is the Chief Security Officer. So we're gonna, in the game, the first thing you're told to do is to go meet the security chief, because there's a security threat to the Apex Center. I guess the elevators serve as loading screens. The level is divided into several big areas. that are more or less isolated from each other. Oh, more about the game. This is like the final level of the main game of Mankind Divided. So it's like a big climax. Okay, coming in here, the security office area is like that. So we have interesting triangles on the roof. Otherwise it's kind of just black and grey with a little bit of yellow highlights. So looks pretty modern, but not that interesting, right? It's okay. And then we have like a black stone on the floor. It's not bad, but it's not that interesting. Interesting. I mean, there's a little bit of ornamentation here. Although this is basically the security area. It shouldn't see any guests, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you shouldn't have any guests coming up here. Like, the convention center, like, there's the public areas, and then this is like the security office. So, the public should not come up here, and so there's no reason for this place to be very decorative, right? We have these concrete planters and chairs. So you come out the elevator, there's a bit of a waiting area. There's a meeting room here, right outside the, right out of the elevator. I think the idea is that if the security chief needs to meet with anyone else, they meet them here, instead of inside the proper security office. So any external guests or like, you know, other executives need to talk about security things, they can meet here. Waiting area there, another waiting area here. Over here we get to see a bit of the facade, which I guess we should talk about this. So there's these shapes, right? Unnecessarily complex window frames is what these are. If you pay close attention, you see repeating shapes. So you see this one, that, and that, right? So that's that sliver of a triangle, and then this quadrilateral is the same as that sliver of a triangle and that quadrilateral, and then we like come across a little bit further. Oh, there it is again. The sliver of a triangle and the quadrilateral, and we don't get another one. So if you look closely, you can see that the pattern actually repeats. So they're not random shapes. They're not all unique shapes. They're like, there's a set module and then it repeats across the facade. So it's not that complicated, so it looks more complicated than it actually is, right? It's actually just like one thing, one like square module that you copy across. And that is bolted into the concrete floor. And also there's I guess that's like a concrete beam holding up the floor above, so it's bolted into the concrete. And then if you look carefully, the glass is pinned to the frame. So the steel, the floor provides the structure to hold the frame, and then the frame provides the structure to hold the glass. And that's the thing holding the glass. I don't think there's anything else holding the glass in place, except that bit there is a little, I guess that's bolted into the frame near the ground. Right, so that's how the window works. Glass held by the frame, and the frame is held by the floors. So it's a window frame, basically. One unusual part of this is that the glass stops at the floor. With architecture like this, often what you would have is the glass would be continuous on the outside of the building. So you have the floor, and the glass would be there'll be a gap, and there'll be glass, and then the frame would be sitting on the floor holding the glass, but they're holding it off the floor, so there'll be a little gap there. Whereas now the floor is there and the glass is sitting on the floor at the very edge, and the glass doesn't extend past the floor. So this, you would not do this. You would not do this. Couple of reasons. First of all, there's more joints than necessary. So here, there's the glass to glass joint, that one there, you have to seal that, otherwise whenever it rains it will leak. Especially a big window like this, if the wind is blowing and it's raining, the wind will push the water inside, and so you did need to seal it, otherwise the water will just start flying in at the joints, right? So there's a glass to glass seal, and then down here there's a glass to concrete seal. And that's a different seal that requires a different material, because you don't necessarily use, like this, whatever sticks to glass doesn't always stick to concrete. So what I'm trying to say is, if you can minimize the different types of joints, it's simpler. So if it's only glass to glass joints, it's simpler than if you have glass to glass joints and then also glass to concrete joints. So that's why often you have like a glass curtain wall on the outside and it's only glass to glass joints all the way down. And you hold the glass in front of the concrete floor so that the concrete floor is not exposed to the outside. So that's what usually happens, so this is unusual. And secondly, you see how the glass is just flush with the concrete? Like the concrete floor ends and the glass is exactly flush. I can tell you, in the real world, nothing's ever exact. You'll be... like if it's only if it's only like an inch off or like a couple of centimeters off, you're doing pretty well. You know, like with large building components, you expect like every single floor slab to be perfectly placed, and then every single window frame to be perfectly placed, and then every sheet of glass to be perfectly distanced from the... Nothing is that perfect, right? There's always tolerance. And so, you know, you look at this, or like in a video game, or in a computer. In the computer, you just kind of, everything snaps into place, and you're like, okay, this concrete slab is exactly 3 meters wide, and then right at the exact edge, aligned with the outside edge, is glass that's exactly 10 millimeters, and so on. Like everything is exact in the computer, but nothing is exact in the real world. So in the real world, there's no way you have something this clean. Like it's just not reality, right? And again, so like if you're relying on, if you're designing the glass so that it is like exactly flush against the concrete, and that's how you're designing the thing, it's not gonna be like that. You can't do, and that's why in the real world, what usually happens is you have the floor ends, and then the glass is held some distance away from the floor. Why? Because that's the tolerance. Like if you didn't place your floor exactly right, if it's like a few centimeters one way or the other, there's got a gap there anyway, and you don't really notice that the gap is slightly wider and smaller as you go along the wall. I mean, if you look closely, you'll notice, but you don't look that closely. And so the gap is for the tolerance. Alternatively, what you might do is your concrete floor, the glass will be back from the concrete floor. So then there'll be a little ledge, and then you can seal the outside and seal the inside. Right, because your glass is not right on the very edge, it's a little bit back. That's easier to seal. You might even like cut a little channel in the concrete floor and then have the glass sit in the concrete channel, and you seal around the channel, and that helps it be more waterproof than that. Like this is not waterproof. Or it's very hard to make that waterproof. So there's like there's little details here that the game didn't really consider, and it does actually demonstrate that the people who made this did not study real architecture, or like they don't really have any experience or any knowledge of how real buildings are put together. Like it's not bad, they kind of read some books. Like they kind of understand that you can pin the glass to a steel frame. Like this is very clever, but then like this is not very clever, right? So this there's some things that they understand, and then there's other things that they haven't really thought about. So this is like second year architecture school kind of thing. They're like, oh, I learned about window frames today, and let's make that, and then they didn't think about the other bits. Anyway, not a huge complaint, but you can kind of see, like if you understand architecture and you know how buildings are designed, you can kind of see what the designers were thinking when you look at something like this, right? Okay, that's way too much detail talking about window frames. Alright, moving on. So here, so this is still the waiting area, and then this is the reception, I guess. Central Security Office. Oh, a CSO is Central Security Office. I thought it was like the Chief Security Officer. So this is the reception for the Central Security Office. Okay, gonna go back outside. Oh, once we get inside, you notice there's not the triangles in the ceiling. The chairs don't have the yellow highlights. So as soon as you get past the more public areas, you lose a lot of the architectural ornamentation. Is there anything to talk about in the meeting room? Not really. Okay, so going into the security office, we have a security door, big camera there, big locked doors. And then there's this, some sort of situation room. This is very dramatic, isn't it? Okay, first of all, how big is the Apex Center? Because this room is big enough for a lot of people. This is like a war room for a small country. You can like there's enough people and enough space for you to organize some very complicated operations in a room like this. And I think this is a little more complicated than the Apex Center requires. I mean, that could be on purpose. It could be implying that the people here they're doing more things than just Apex Center security. Maybe they're running operations from this building. Maybe. If you think back to Prague and the TF-29 headquarters in the basement of Prague, like that space was smaller than this space. And that's a whole Interpol task force, right? So this it's funny how big this is, and also like how shiny the floors are. Like here the floors aren't that shiny. And there's a lot of open space as well. I'm not sure why there's so much empty space that's not being used. This is like a hidden headquarters of something, but they made it really fancy, even though like no one's supposed to know about this place. It's a little bit incongruous. Not sure what's going on. There are workstations, and then in the middle we have a fancy holographic map. Curiously, the holographic map is showing the Wiggly Towers around the Apex Center. It's not showing the actual Apex Center. If we come in here, the Apex Center is just like a little rectangle in the middle, and it's tiny. So I'm not sure what's going on here. It could be this model was made before everything else. They made a bunch of art assets, and then as they made the game, they changed their mind. Maybe like that was supposed to be the Apex Center, but they changed their mind, and so they kind of changed things up. Who knows, right? But this is curious. The streets, so St. Thomas Street and Magdalen Street and Braidwood Street. So all these streets, they actually are around the London Bridge area, but the street signs are in the wrong places. First of all, these streets don't line up with London streets, and the street signs are just randomly placed. So they're real streets, but they're in the wrong place. If we look around here, we can find some of these streets if I can search for them, but I think you can just like see them. London Bridge. Crap, I can't find them. I swear they're somewhere nearby. Maybe they're further the other way. Tower Bridge Road. Or were they over here? Maiden Park. I can type them in. Alright, let's type them in, because I know they're here. Let's say Braidwood Street. Braidwood Street, London, UK. It's there. So if that's Braidwood, and then So like, okay, so you think, but London Bridge is the other way. London Bridge is that way. So already it's in the wrong place, so they put London Bridge like there. And then if we go to, I don't know, Magdalen Street. Oops, spelled that wrong. Magdalen Street. It's, oh, a little further down that way. It's all in the wrong place. So Magdalen Street would be like, I don't know, anyway, all the signs are in the wrong place. I don't think they expected anyone to look this closely at this map. But they were wrong, because these are real street names. And I'm sure at least some people who played this game are from London, and they know these streets. And so they look at this and they're like, you just kind of completely messed this map up. So I feel like the person who made this map they could have took this a little bit more seriously. Because people, like players, are gonna see this. And if you don't believe me that the guys should take this more seriously, let's go ahead and read this sign. Data analysis. This is a bunch of useless data. I mean, there's so much to read, it's not even... Oh, let me just slide over. Excuse me. It's not even possible to digest that amount. And don't even try to read these words. They are written way too small. Yeah, no, they weren't taking this seriously. Okay, I get it, haha, funny joke, the text is you know, breaking the fourth wall. But I just feel like they're not. This is unprofessional. You could have taken this a little bit more seriously. Anyway. Alright, moving on. So this place, there's like a main situation room, I guess, right in the middle. Off to the side, we have a bit of an... What is this? That's just a corridor. We have a bit of an office. Right. And then back out this way, we have computers. And then we go upstairs. There's just more maintenance areas back there. So before I go upstairs, I want to talk about this concrete. I think this is concrete. This is concrete, right? It looks like concrete. So, diagonal concrete. The way concrete works, you know, right? You mix the concrete, it's a thick liquid. It's liquid, but it's so thick that it doesn't really sit flat, kind of like. And so, you pour the concrete. It pours as a very thick liquid, and then you have to manually flatten it if you want a smooth surface. Now the issue is, on diagonal concrete, it's very hard to pour diagonal concrete because it's liquid. If you kind of pour it like that, it will just slowly sink and then become level again. So in order to have diagonal concrete, you really need to like pour it and then like put a cap on it to hold it in place while it cures, and then when it's finished curing, then you can have the top. The issue with this is that this angle is too small. Concrete is a thick liquid, and so if you make like a diagonal mold like this, you can't really have ledges and pour into the ledge. Like pour under and fill the ledge is quite difficult. Chances are you have like gas bubbles trapped in here, and you see it, right? And so if you want to like complex shapes like this, there's two ways to do it. Well, I mean, there might be more ways, but two easy ways is if you have like another seam here, you can cast this shape as one piece, and then afterwards, once you're done with that, once that has cured enough, then you cast the second shape as a separate piece. And so this shape is simple enough that you can make the concrete in that shape. And then the next piece is also simple enough. But then if you do that, there'll be a join there, just like there's a join here, right? There's a join there. And there's also a join. I mean, it's kind of a join. It's just textures. But if you cast it in two pieces, there'll be a join. So that's one way to have a diagonal concrete shape like this, but it's still pretty difficult to keep the diagonal concrete while it cures. The other way to do it is actually not have it diagonal. You flip it 90 degrees and you cast it on the ground flat. So it's in that shape, but it's flat, right? If you turn this 90 degrees, and then after it cures, you take the whole block, you turn it up 90 degrees, put it in place, and then you cast it into the floor and into this bit. And so you cast that bit first, flat on the ground, and you turn it up, and then you cast this against it to hold that in place. And then you can have that shape, which is easier to cast on the side. And then you can have this. So there's bits of diagonal concrete like this, like that there, and that there, and of course the staircase. And so all these diagonal concrete bits, it's very difficult to cast that in place. But all of these pieces, you'll notice, if you cast them on the ground sideways, then they're just flat, and then you can move them into place. So that's how you do these concrete stairs like this, if you're wondering. Alright, let's go upstairs. We have a lot of exposed concrete, exposed cables, so this is definitely not a public area, because there's no ornamentation. I mean, for a place that has no ornamentation, the stairs are quite fancy. I'm not sure why the stairs are so robust and diagonal concrete like this. I mean, this is very solid. I mean, it could be earthquake resistant, it could be blast resistant, I guess. It is the security, the central security office, so it could be they made it blast resistant, so if they try to blow the whole building up, at least the security team will survive. Same stairs on the other side. Up here we have the camera feeds, and I guess the data feeds. In the game you have to press a button here. It's a little odd that they've put the security feeds there, leaning out like that. When you have a window like this, it implies that this is a window that overlooks the central space. But instead of like a window, they've put a bunch of camera feeds here. I think they designed the space first without knowing how the gameplay is going to happen, and then they designed the gameplay. The gameplay requires you to press a button here, and so that they put the button with the camera feeds here, but they didn't change the shape of the building. So I think that it just, there are a number of places in this game where you get the impression that they did things in a certain sequence and they didn't revisit, right? So it looks like they did concept art, and then they built the environment, and then they made the gameplay, but they didn't go back to redesign anything. So then what happens is after they've done the gameplay, a lot of the times the gameplay don't entirely fit into the architecture. They have to fudge things like this. It's because they didn't change the room. Like if they thought, if they didn't know that they wanted this room while they made the architecture. So they made the architecture, and then they decided, okay, for gameplay reasons we need this room, but we just put it into this room. But this room was never designed for this button and for these camera feeds. Is what it feels like to me. Because this is the fact that the screens kind of tilt away from you. It's not ergonomic, right? It's not. That's why is it tilting away from you? So yeah. And if we go into the other room, hold on, let's get past this. We have a bunch of computer servers here as well. And then going into this room, that's what it's supposed to be, right? The window tilts away from you because you're looking down. You have a room, like an office up here, that overlooks the situation room down there. And that's supposed to be the same thing, right? You see what I mean? but they put a bunch of camera feeds there. I think it's a design process issue. Should we talk about design processes? I'm getting really abstract here. Getting real academic. So a good design process is cyclical. You have a concept, you make the concept, you test the concept, and the testing is going to reveal what parts work and what parts don't work. You learn from the test, you make another concept, and then you make that, and then you test that, and then you find out again what works and what doesn't work. And from that you go, you kind of redefine the concept, and you make it, and you test that. So it's cyclical. You make it, you test it, you learn and you update, and you make the next one, and it's if you don't go through that cycle at least 3 times, it's not going to be very good. Like you're going to design something, like the first time you do anything, it's just not going to be right. It's just how it is. So you need to do the same thing several times before you get it right. And looking at this, it looks like they didn't do that. It looks like they kind of just had a concept, made the thing, and test, and release. And they didn't like go back and redo the cycle. And it's a real pain in the ass. It is a real pain in the ass. It's a real pain in the ass to do the same thing like this over and over again. And what usually you would do in architecture is the first concept is rough. You don't detail everything. It's rough, a rough concept, and you test the rough concept. And you make it more detailed, finalize some things, and you test it again, and then you go and do the real final full detailed design. You need to test it. So you need to go through several cycles. But here, not just on this level, but in previous levels as well, it looks like they never revisited the concept. They didn't have a rough concept and then tested and then a more detailed. They just paid the concept artist at the beginning to make a lot of detailed concept art, and then that's it. And they didn't go back and redo the concept ever. And so then a lot of the stuff, the final product, don't fit the concept, because the concept was drawn without understanding what the final product is going to be, if that makes sense. Like it's something if you've designed a lot before, you would see these things. Like you can tell by the symptoms that that's the problem. It's a problem with the underlying process, right? Yeah, and people who don't understand how the process works, they get really frustrated and demoralized by the idea that you would make something, and when you test it, you realize you have to remake everything. Like, you know, all of that is crap, throw it away, and then just do the same thing again. Like, they get demoralized by the fact that you have to do it again. But actually, if you understand how this works, every time you do it again, it's much better. Like, the second time you do something is much better than the first time you do something. And then the third time is much better than the second time. So, like, if you understand that's what it takes, and you're prepared to do the same thing 3 times before it's finished, then you understand that you need to do that before you can figure out all the problems and solve all the problems and come up with a good product at the end. So yeah, it's just something you have to, if you're not like a designer, not a product designer or an architect or any sort of like, you know, design based profession, you might not realize that. You do the same thing several times. Okay. Let's continue looking at this building. Yeah, and like this, it doesn't look like they've done this several times. It looks like they've done this once. And I can tell. Alright, back here we have some maintenance areas. Not sure why this leads to a maintenance area. And there's no staircase down. I guess the staircase is the other way. Okay. But they put a maintenance area in here, and then this door leads back to the security reception, and then to this place. Circulation is a little odd, right? If you're talking about security, if that space is supposed to be super secure, that door should not be there. Right? There should be like one heavy security door, and that's the only entrance. Like, why? This is a security liability, right? This is a security liability. There's like a back door through here. Why? For gameplay reasons, it's so that you have multiple ways to sneak past the enemies. For gameplay reasons. But, you know, it's not secure. Your security office is not secure. Right, so that's the security office. It's a small area. We are going to the next one. So this is self-contained, right? And then we move down to the reception hall. So in the game, the security office has been compromised. There's a whole bunch of enemies in there. You have to sneak past them, press the button, which then allows you to go down to the reception hall where you have to deal with more enemies. So that's the story in the game. So the second part of this level, we come out this elevator into the reception hall. Right? Same architectural treatment. Look at that. Again, it's like it's a little bit fancy, but not really. Okay, so like there's some interesting ceiling bits, and there's a few slightly interesting wall bits, but it's kind of plain actually. We have a security room. The desks are facing the wrong way. So the idea of a security room at this point is you keep an eye on the elevator and you keep an eye on the corridor and you watch the people coming in and going out. That's why you have the security room here, is to watch this corridor. But the desks are facing the wrong way and they're not looking at the corridor. Yeah, no, again, why? I think there's a lack of communication here. Look, what I think happened is there's a guy who made the architecture, the walls and floors and the spaces, like the guy who drew the spaces. And then there's a different guy who put the furniture into the rooms. And those two guys, they weren't talking enough. That's why this happened. Right? Because the person who drew the rooms, they understand what's going on. If there's a security station here, the point of the security station is to watch the elevator to make sure no strange people come in. Right? That's why this window is here, that's why this room is here. But then the guy who put the furniture in here, that guy was not talking to the first guy. He saw a room, okay, it's a security, and he just put some security desks into the room without understanding more clearly why this room is in this place, in this shape, with that window. And so like this is like the team is not talking to each other. Like this is a sign of this kind of bad teamwork in the design team. You see what I'm saying? You can see it, right? Am I crazy? You can see what's going on, and the design team is just not working the way they should. They're not talking enough, and they're not in sync. They don't understand what each other is doing. So it's a dysfunctional design team. That's what I see when I look at this, because the furniture is in all the wrong places. But then look, that these tables, they wouldn't fit that board anyway. You have big rectangular tables that are this big. They wouldn't fit this wall anyway. If this wall was flat, if this wall was just flat and there's not that little dent there, then you could put a big rectangular desk there and that would make sense. So the guy who made the desk is another person again. Right? The guy who made this room is one person, the guy who made the desk is a different person, and the guy who places the desk is another person, and they're all working separately. They're not communicating enough, and this is the result. It's you can see it. You can like see the dysfunctional teamwork. Am I wrong? Right, what do you think happened? Okay, reception hall. Reception halls usually are not like this, right? So a reception hall, receptions are like you know, functions, parties, corporate parties. Basically, a corporate party is a reception. Reception spaces, in reality, are usually like a big rectangular box, and it's big and empty, and you can like use it for anything. You can use it for like an award ceremony. You kind of put like a whole lot of chairs down and a stage. You can use it for a banquet. You put a lot of dining tables and have a big banquet. You can have like a dance party, put down a dance floor and put on a DJ. So it's just a big hall that you can basically do anything in. That's what reception halls usually are, like big multifunctional spaces. But this, what we have here, if you can tell, there's like a series of split levels and stairs that go up and down, and so then it's very difficult to use this space for a lot of different functions because all the spaces are too complicated. So reception halls are usually not like this. For gameplay purposes, this is quite interesting because the geometry is interesting. Deus Ex is the kind of game where you can climb up and down a lot, and so with the vertical split levels you can climb up and down to kind of catch the enemies and then hide above them, hide below them, and all that. So gameplay wise it's very interesting, but this is not what a reception hall is. It's not a real reception hall. Fancy lights, triangular bits in the ceiling. Interestingly, they seem to concentrate in certain areas around the columns. Is that a fluke or is it on purpose? Can't really tell. Alright, coming down. First of all, we have the bar. If you wanna get drunk right away, you can go directly to the bar out of the elevator and get drunk. It might be useful for some people. Jokes aside though, like food and drink is quite important. People are less sociable when they're hungry. So like if you have a function like this, you want to have the food immediately available so people aren't hangry when they go socialize with each other. Right, so you want to feed them right away. Maybe give them a little bit of drink so they kind of light them a little bit. So like I did joke about, you know, getting drunk immediately, but actually it's like you want to do that for a function like this. Feed people and give them a bit of alcohol just to lighten up the mood. Coming down, we have in giant lettering Safe Harbor, and then we have a red carpet area, right? So this is just the red carpet area basically. Fancy floors if you want to take photos. The Safe Harbor initiative in the game is the scheme where the Centaur, right? T-E-A-U, Centaur. The Centaur group is they're building a city for orcs to live. And it's because of segregation. They're segregating the orcs from naturals, so they're gonna build a fancy new cities, but move all the orcs there. And it's called the Safe Harbor Initiative, where they can be safe in a separate city. But why aren't they safe? Why aren't they safe in your cities? Why do they need to be somewhere else to be safe? Is it because you are abusing them? Maybe. Maybe you are. Anyway, so in order for the orcs to be safe, they need to be moved away from all the people who are abusing them. So anyway, that's what the Safe Harbor Initiative refers to. So a red carpet area. There's not much back here. Like this is redundant space. They could have moved this further back, and then this would be more spacious. Except in the video game, because the point of the video game is to sneak around, this allows you to sneak around. So you don't have to walk through this space. You can like dodge around the enemies. So a lot of redundant spaces, architecturally speaking, but it's all because of gameplay, right? And again, like the split levels, the fact that that is split from this and then this is split from that, it's so awkward for circulation, right? The fact that you can't just go from here to there means that, you know, if people want to move around this space, so the toilets are down there, right? And the bar is up there. Let's say you go to the bar, you have one too many beers, and you're like, oh, I need to pee. You have to go to the toilet, you have to walk down there, and then walk over there, and walk down there, and then walk down there, and then walk back this way, and then you can go pee. Why is the toilet not next to the bar? Because then, like, every time somebody has too much to drink and they need to go relieve themselves, they have to walk all the way around the entire hall and then walk all the way back to the bar. So not like you know, architecturally not efficient, but you know, like, this is because video games. Like, if this was all flat, then this really would be right next to the bar and everything would be fine. But because of the gameplay, they need you to jump up and down and make things more interesting. Then they kind of need it. Right. Alright, moving on. Down here we have another area where people are just standing around and doing nothing. I guess there's more food and drink here. Serve yourself. We have whole bottles of alcohol. Right, people standing around pretending to belong. See, I mean, I hate social gatherings, man. You show up just to show up. You show up just to be seen. I hate social gatherings like this. Anyway, alright, so down here we have a sitting area. And again, this is like way out of the way. In one sense, it might be kind of nice just to have like a quiet area for you to have conversations. If you don't want to be in amongst everybody else, if you're like sick of socializing, you can just come down here, have a private conversation. But again, it's just so out of the way, right? It's so far out of the way. Chances are it's just dead space. Because if somebody spots you down here, they're like, hey, what's wrong? Right? If you see someone like sitting here, like the party is up there and they're sitting here, you would say, what's wrong? So like something is wrong about being in this space. Because if nothing's wrong, you'd be up there partying. So I don't know. Maybe a space like this is necessary? Or maybe it's just gonna be a dead space. Maybe you have people making out down here in secret, I don't know. Who knows? The toilets are down here. Toilets look like this. That is a different thing from all the other architecture bits. I think somebody, the person who made the toilet, again, is a different person from whoever made everything else. Because the style of this doesn't fit, right? There's this, look at this. There's these bits and it's backlit. It's backlit. And they used it for the walls and the ceiling. Which is kind of unhygienic, by the way. So when you pee and you're kind of drunk, you might miss. Let's be real, all right? I'm gonna tell you about real architecture. When you're drunk and you pee, you might splatter and you might miss. And if you miss, the pee is going to go into this little crevice and it's gonna seep into behind the panel, and you're never gonna get that clean again. And you know what happens when you leave pee and unclean? It's gonna start smelling. Like, it's gonna smell. So after a while, because somebody misfired and it splattered, this whole place is gonna smell like old pee. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. So you don't do this in a toilet. You just don't. A toilet needs to be as easy to clean as possible. And that means not having tiny little crevices that you can splatter behind. Like, I'm sorry I had to go to that graphic detail, but this is like real architecture is not gonna do this. You can't do this in the real world because it's gonna smell. Imagine the smell. Yeah, so whoever designed this one has no real architecture experience. They have no real experience designing real toilets. And secondly, the styling is completely different to all the other spaces, so it's just a different guy. A completely different guy made the toilets. And they just didn't talk to each other, right? Because you imagine, like in a real... In a proper design team, even if you have like a couple of guys, okay, you say, alright, you Bob, you make the toilets, and you Joe, you make the hall, and then you split up and you make some concepts. You don't finalize everything, you make a few concepts, a few basic concepts, and you come back and everybody shares their ideas, right? And when they come back and they have a meeting and they talk, then they have to negotiate, okay, we've all made different things, okay, we can use this thing here, and we can use this thing there, and then okay, we like this ceiling, we made 3 different ceilings. This ceiling we like the best, so we're gonna kind of use this for all the ceilings. Like the other 2, well, they were good attempts, but they're not as good. And so okay, we made this light, and we really like this light. You had a really good idea there, Bob. That's a really cool light, Bob. And so then you use, so when you kind of bring them back, and then you say, okay, we're gonna decide on a consistent pattern, and then everybody goes away again and they follow that same pattern and they remake their spaces, and then when they come back the second time, it's going to be a coherent building where everything fits. So you have to, like, again, I'm talking about, you make a thing once, you come back and you talk about it and you say what's good, what's bad, and then you have to remake it. But after you remake it, it makes a lot more sense, right? The second time you do it, it makes a lot more sense, and then you might do it a third time after that. And when you look at this, clearly they didn't do that. Clearly, this guy made the toilet once, and then they just used this toilet. And if we go around this level, every toilet looks like this. So they just made the toilet once, and then they copy-pasted the same toilet into every toilet location. And nobody ever kind of came and reviewed it. No, they didn't talk about it with anyone, they didn't show it to anyone. They just used it. There's no review, there's no there's no design process, there's no development. They just, the guy made it and they used it. And I just noticed that vent back there. So you'll notice that this wall is incomprehensibly geometric, right? It's got these kind of triangles cast into concrete, by the way. I've talked about diagonal concrete already. This is okay, it's mostly vertical. I guess they just had like a formwork and they just cast into it. It's not something you usually do because concrete, like shapes like this, isn't that good. But look, they put a vent in here. The vent obviously is rectangular because that's the asset. And so they have a sloping wall and they just kind of jam the rectangular vent into the sloping wall. So the guy who made the toilet didn't anticipate the vent being there. And why is the vent there and not there? This is a flat wall, by the way. Why didn't they put it on the flat wall? Because this wouldn't fit unless the wall's flat. So now there's like a flat thing sticking out of diagonal thing in a really awkward way. Yeah, no. And I want to be clear that I'm not really complaining about the architecture as such, although I am complaining about this because, again, you're gonna splatter and it's gonna seep and then it's gonna smell. So I'm complaining about that. But mostly I'm complaining about the lack of communication between the team members. Who are like all the team members, they're doing their own job and they're not really discussing with each other, is what I'm seeing in the design. And it's a little bit amazing that you can see it just from looking at the design, actually. Alright, moving back, let's keep... It's gonna be a long video. I wasn't anticipating going into that much detail, but it's actually quite interesting to me. Alright, anyway, we step up again, and then we step down again. And there's a DJ. There's a DJ, and there's a dance floor. And this guy is dancing. Alright, let's spend a few minutes to laugh at this guy's dancing. Look at him. What are you doing, dude? What are you doing? You just tapping your leg? Yeah, yes, this beat is really good, yeah. This music, yeah, this is really good music. And look at her, what are you doing? And just, yeah, it's really good, and she's like, yeah, I'm the only person dancing. Get hype! So this is the saddest dance floor, and that DJ, what are you, man? Man, there's like there's only 3 people listening to your music, and only one of them is actually moving. Oh, awkward. It's so awkward. Anyway, there's a dance floor here. There's more food and drink. Finally there's a poster, by the way. This is the first actual poster of Rabia. Rabia is the city, right? The city that they're building as a safe harbor for the orcs, because the orcs are not safe right now. So it's very kind of futuristic architecture, I get it. I don't know what it is though. So the issue I have with this kind of blobby, curvy architecture, yes, it looks cool, but what is it? You can't read it. Is it a train station? Is it a shopping mall? Is it an office block? Like I don't know what it is. You're just making shapes, man. The way I think about design is the design should tell you something, right? The design should say something to you. The design, like if it's an apartment block, the design should say, I'm an apartment block. And you can see it's an apartment block because there are apartment things, right? There are things that people need in their apartments or around their apartments. Things like a garden, or like if it's a train station, well, there'll be train tracks, but there'll be like, you know, if it's a transport hub, there'll be like bus stands and taxi stands and car parks and pedestrian links. Like it doesn't. I don't know what it is, and maybe the person who made this doesn't know what it is either. Needs to make it a cool shape, and then I don't know what it is. Yeah. And it's not just this, right? Don't think I'm just complaining about Rabia. I'm complaining about real-world architects too. Some real-world architects, I guess I won't name any names, but there are some real-world architects who also do this. They make these shapes, and you just don't know what the hell they are. What is it? You look at it, it's like, what is it? And yeah, no, I'm not a... I prefer architecture that tells you something, that tells you what it is. That's just me, I guess. Okay, so this is the reception hall. As we said, it's not really a hall. And I guess there is sort of a reception here, but there's actually like 4 different spaces, and the 4 different spaces are disjointed. They're all doing their separate things. And again, like a reception usually isn't like that. Usually you have like one big event hall, and you're all kind of doing the same thing. So an unusual space for a reception hall. But for gameplay reasons, they want to make things interesting. They want to make the geometry interesting, so you can climb up and down and all that. There's also upstairs bit. In the game they're off limits, but actually you can come back here, and there's like staircases and walkways up here. So we can get up to this place. There's a staircase, a bit of a seating area, and then like a balcony here, right? And then more staircase, and then more seating area. So there's like an upper walkway, around the reception space. So this is actually quite useful. When you have a big event, I mean not this because there's only 3 people dancing, but imagine if the music was good. And imagine if there were like hundreds of people here. And imagine if more people wanted to come in because the DJ was so good, so like a lot of people want to listen to this DJ. Then like this provides you with a bit of overflow space. If not everybody can fit down there, they can come up here and overflow. Or imagine if like somebody's giving a speech down there, you can put the reporters up here with the cameras, so there's like a press gallery. So like a raised area around the central hall is quite useful. You can use it for a lot of things. Overflow, press, or just like a you know, a downtime, relaxation. If like it's too crowded, partying too hard down there, you can come out here, sit down, take a break. So quite useful to have a space that is kind of separated from the main space, but it's still connected enough that you don't feel like you're completely out of it, right? And of course for gameplay reasons, because it's a game about climbing up and down. Being up here and being able to scout out the enemies down there, maybe attack them from above, that's quite handy as well. So this hallway comes around here, and then it gets weird because the walkways become disconnected. Right, we have this walkway here, and then there's another walkway up there, but there's no stairs, even though there's plenty of space for a staircase. There's plenty of space for a staircase right here, but they didn't put it in. Don't know why? Maybe for gameplay reasons. You can't just climb up that, by the way, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna walk like a law-abiding citizen. If we come back this way and dodge these guys, so behind here we have another door and then another staircase. So this is the service staircase, I suppose, or maybe it's not. No, it kind of just leads back here. Right, so the part where we didn't jump up the wall is back here. This goes into this door, and then there's like a nothing space, and then this doesn't join up. So spatially, this is silly. But for gameplay reasons, there's like a lock there. So the gameplay is, if you want to sneak past the main floor, you have to unlock the door and then you have to jump up and down. So like it's very inconvenient if this was a real reception hall, right? But you know, for gameplay reasons, they don't want to make it too easy because this allows you to bypass the enemies downstairs. So if you want to bypass the enemies downstairs, then you have to unlock the door and everything. So for gameplay reasons, they make it more complicated. But it really is unnecessarily obtuse. Like there's no staircase there and then the door's locked. And then up here, we can look down, but this walkway again doesn't lead anywhere. It just comes across here and it stops, right? There, it stops there, and it stops here. And again, like, why doesn't this just join up? Why doesn't that just join up? Because they don't want you to bypass the enemies that easily. Like, if you want to bypass the enemies, you have to do some trick jumping across here or something. So yeah, unnecessarily convoluted circulation for gameplay reasons. I did come up these stairs, didn't I? I think I did, okay. And then we're back at the elevator. Okay, so that's the reception hall. Like, way too complex and way too convoluted for a real reception hall. But it's basically a gameplay space. Spatially interesting space for gameplay, and then they just put the reception bits into here. Even though it's not really a reception hall. And the things don't fit very well. Right, so moving on to the next area. In the game, once you've dealt with all the enemies and you've snuck to the other end of the reception hall, the next part is a maintenance area off of this door. Look at that. Maintenance. So getting past the public area into the maintenance area, and appropriately enough the architecture changes into something much more functional. Concrete block? Why would it be concrete block? I think it should just be concrete panels or like concrete walls, because everything else is concrete walls, I thought. Concrete walls with like metal architectural elements. Yeah, no, the concrete block is just the texture they used. It doesn't really make sense here, actually. Oh well, it looks like a maintenance area. So we come down this corridor, and then, I mean, it's dead people, first of all. We have a locker room, and then we have showers. I guess these are staff showers. Oh wait, the glass is completely clear. Oh, that's a little interesting, isn't it? The glass is completely clear. Ah, so it's like three dudes showering, like three naked dudes showering, and all the glass is completely clear, and you can see each other. Showers usually have frosted glass, right? Minor details, but very funny. Alright, so there's more maintenance corridor, and then next to it is some sort of equipment. This might be air conditioning, because there's like an air duct up there that joins into this machine, so there's some sort of ventilation. And I guess electrical hazard, do not touch. Hazardous voltage inside, keep out. Yeah, so this is electrical equipment, and that's probably ventilation. And then around in the loop, are you paying attention? Around in the loop into a little dead end is a security office. There's 3 desks and some tables. Did you pay attention to that? The loop? The hallway comes down in a loop into this room. Why? Why isn't the door to this room just here? Usually you have a hallway and you have just rooms on either side, right? Because that's efficient. This hallway comes down and does a loop-de-loop and then goes into this room from this side. Incomprehensible. Incomprehensible hallway design. Again, it's gameplay reasons. Like, there's a thing in here. Is that a security station? I thought there was. Hold on, let me just check again. No, there's no security station. But there's loot in here. So you... if you're gonna get to the loot in this room, you have to, like, get past all the enemies to get to... but you know what I mean, right? Like, a proper building would just have room and a door, and there'll be 3 more rooms, or 2 more rooms, and another room there, and then... you know what I mean. Why does the hallway do this? Why do this? Okay. So you're gonna see this a lot in this level. Like, a lot of it is like gameplay spaces that have been lightly dressed up into the Apex Center. Like, they didn't make an Apex Center and then fit the gameplay into it. They kind of designed the gameplay and then dressed it up to look like the Apex Center. And so then you have these weird ass corridors that go around in a loop like that. There's a map here. Does this map even fit the actual building? This doesn't look like... oh, this is upstairs. Oh, this is another part. This is the meeting hall part. And I don't know why the map is here, because it's in the wrong place. That map should be somewhere else. What is this? It's the same map. Okay. This is a different part of the building. Through here we have a kitchen. The kitchen straddles 2 hallways. There's a hallway on one side and a hallway on the other. To go through the hallway, you have to go through the kitchen. Again, for gameplay reasons, At this point in the game, you have to talk to that guy. And so the kitchen is actually a gate in the level that you have to go through this gate to get to the next part of the game. So it functions as a gate, and so it straddles the hallway because it's a gate. But then they made it a kitchen in the narrative because the wine is poisoned, by the way. So the wine is poisoned, and this guy came here to try to stop the poisoned wine, but he failed. He got ambushed and he's knocked out. So that's the story. So he came to the kitchen, but the kitchen has to function as a gate in the gameplay. So then the architecture has a corridor on one side of the kitchen and a corridor on the other side of the kitchen. The kitchen straight. I mean, look, I'm sure they could have done this differently. I mean, maybe they could have the corridor going through and a kitchen off the side, but then the corridor is blocked by something. They could have done that, and that would make much more sense architecturally. But they did this instead, and it's from an architect's perspective, it's very silly. Like from a gameplay perspective, I understand what's going on. It's a gate. Like you finish this part, there's a cutscene, and then there's the next part, and so the cutscene happens here. I understand the gameplay reasons, but from an architectural perspective, it is so silly that it's like this. Like the corridor loops in the loop instead of going straight through, which is what corridors usually do. It just connects, you know, two ends of a building. And then there's a kitchen in the middle, and the kitchen's too far from everything else anyway. The kitchen really, because the reception's out here. The kitchen should be much closer because you want the food to get to the place quicker, right? So the kitchen should be closer to the reception. But it's kind of like very far away from where you cook the food very far away from where the food is consumed, and that doesn't really make sense. Anyway, you go from the corridor through the kitchen into a different corridor, and then you go to the meeting rooms. Okay, next part is the meeting rooms, and that's the reception hall again, by the way. When you trigger, so in the game, initially there's a gate here and you can't go to the meeting rooms. But after you go down there, go around the loop, go to the kitchen, get the cutscene unlocks this door, so it opens up the exhibition hall as a hub that you can go back to. But initially you can't go past this point, right? Not that it makes any difference, because you don't need to do anything in the hub anyway. But interesting. Like, you know, from a gameplay perspective, the idea that, you know, you direct it in the loop and you come back and it unlocks the door, and then you go to a different loop and you unlock the door. So this sort of design is very good for video games. It's also very good for theme parks and zoos and museums. So like theme parks and zoos and museums, there are places where you're kind of there for an adventure, right? You go to the theme park and you go, oh, let's go on all the rides. And so like there's like a central square. You come in the entrance, there's a central square, and they'll be like, imagine like a Disneyland, Magic Kingdom or whatever it's called. And then you go around in the loop, oh, go to all the rides, and then you go to a different place, whatever Disney thing, Aladdin, or whatever it is. Do people still watch Aladdin? Am I too old? And they go, oh, Aladdin, and go around the loop. So there's like, you know, you can pick which loop you want to go around, and it's a loop because it's one path, right? There's only one path, you can't get lost, and it always brings you back to the main area, and then you go to the next loop. And so, like some zoos are like this, a lot of theme parks are like this, some museums are like this. So it's a narrative space. It's a space that tells a narrative. And so it's a linear, or there's multiple linear paths, so there's multiple stories. And so here, in this level, right, you come down here like this, it loops back, and then the next bit, where you come down here and it loops, and then come down here and it loops somewhere else. It goes like you've got on different levels. It loops down here. So there's like a couple of loops. So That's very clever. I don't know if they really thought about this, but in terms of like video game level design, like this is where it intersects a little bit with real world theme park design, theme park museum and zoo design. I thought that was interesting to point out. Maybe next time you're in a theme park you can notice this. Okay, so the second loop begins here. So I guess I should talk about the gameplay. We have to go through the meeting rooms to the VIP suite to save the VIPs from the poison wine. That's the story. And obviously the meeting rooms that we have to go through is filled with enemies again, so you have to kind of work your way through the enemies, down the loop, and then come back up. So first up, we have an auditorium. This is not the auditorium, this is the entry into the auditorium. Oh, there it is, auditorium. So this makes sense, because you want to acoustically isolate the auditorium from the outside. The auditorium can be noisy, but also the outside can be noisy. So you don't want the noise to leak out, so then you have one door and a different door. And most of the time you don't have both doors open at the same time, and so like if there's a lot of noise, it doesn't spill out into the outside space. So that's why they have this space. And also a space like this, if people are like gathering for a show or for a presentation, and it's not quite ready yet, they can just kind of wait here. So there's a waiting area and also acoustic isolation. So auditoriums usually have spaces like this if they're well designed. The auditorium itself, it functions. It's a bit small. It functions. We have seating, as you do. There's usually like projection equipment back here. Doesn't have to be. And then up here, it looks like they've put a little model of a piece of rabier inside here. Kind of odd, it's like you can't really see it. Well, I mean, they did this because you need to hide behind it for gameplay reasons, so it needs to be cover, right? But the model... okay, look. They need cover for gameplay reasons, but they can't put the model on top of the table, because if they put the model up there, then when you're sitting here, you can't see the screen if there's a model in the way. So they have to lower the model, but they still need the cover. So they put the model inside the box, but that means you can't really see the model inside the... They're like again, like this is very funny. This very funny conflict between gameplay and architecture. And I feel like this, I really think if the team members talk to each other more, they could have solved these problems. I really think it's a lack of communication in the design team, between the different members of the design team. But anyway, look, they have cover, they have the model, and the auditorium works kind of as an you can still see the screen. Okay, it fits. Ship it. But why is it in a little box? Yeah, okay, I mean... so the ceiling, that doesn't really fit there. Usually in an auditorium, you have acoustic panels on the ceiling and the walls. And the purpose of the acoustic panels is to reflect sound from the speaker down at the audience. So the panels there would be shaped so that the sound reflects towards the audience, and the same with the ceiling. Those panels, it's not shaped for acoustics, they're just for aesthetics. In fact, I think the person who made this doesn't understand anything about acoustics. Or they didn't think about it. Maybe they do understand, they just didn't think about it. Those panels, the sound just goes all over the place. And in fact, it's like deliberately bad for acoustics. It's aggressively bad acoustics. Because it's not focusing the sound at the audience, right? I didn't think about acoustics. So back out of the auditorium. We have a elevator here. Interesting. I'm just trying to think, like, where do these elevators go? Does that line up with this? Hold on, let me just look at that. How far can I jump? So the elevator's back there, right? How far is that? And then it doesn't line up. It's further back above. It's almost right, you guys. Like, I know, I swear it's not. That's not. Can I like stand here? So elevator's there. Yeah, no, it doesn't quite line up. It almost lines up. I mean, I'm more angry that it almost lines up. Like, it's just a little bit off, I think. Am I crazy? It almost lines up, right? Or does it actually line up? You know what? Let's be generous. I'm going to be generous and say it lines up. So, okay, the elevator lines up. That's good. keep going. So the meeting rooms. First, we have an information counter, which is probably useful because, as you'll see later on, the circulation here is so convoluted that you probably have to ask someone where you need to go. Anyway, there's like 10 rooms according to that. So there's 1 to 10, C101 to C110, C110. So there's 10 meeting rooms at 2 levels, and at the entrance you have an information desk and a code check, and all of that is good. And the signs, yeah. So I was thinking about this earlier. Yes, there is signage, but the signage really is compensating for awkward circulation, right? So again, what I like about the kind of thing that I like in architecture is when the architecture tells you what you need to know. And here, this architecture doesn't really tell you what you need to know, because you look down here, the corridor goes down and turns away. You can't see around the corner. You don't know what's down there unless you read the signs. And then again here, the corridor turns that way. You can't really tell what's back there unless you read the signs. If you come around, you'll see that it's a staircase. But not only is there a staircase, it's a dead end other than the staircase. So like, if you want to go to the ground floor things, you can't go this way. That's a dead end, but you don't know until you get to here. And then here it says, oh, the upstairs meeting rooms are that way and the downstairs meeting rooms are that way. But if you come down here a little bit, you realize, oh, there's a staircase. You can go upstairs from here as well. So why is there like upstairs is go that way, but I can come this here to go upstairs? And then the downstairs stuff is down here. So the like, this is why we need an information desk. Because like, just from standing here, it's not clear where you need to go based on the architecture, and that's why you need to talk to the guy at the information desk. And on the ground, you see this black stuff on the ground. You like, this looks like a path, right? There's a black path drawn on the ground. But if you follow this black path, right, it turns left. The black path, and then the path like turns left. Okay, and then you follow the path, and then it turns left, and then you go in a loop, and then now you're back where you started. So it looks like there's a path drawn on the ground, but the path doesn't lead anywhere. Like, sometimes if you go to like airports or like complicated spaces, like, there'll be color coding, right? Imagine if there were actually colors in this building. Imagine if it's like, I don't know, blue up there and maybe like green down here. I guess if you're colorblind it doesn't help. But imagine if there's like slightly different colors. And then imagine if there's like a blue line that goes towards the stairs. And then there's a green line that comes along the ground. And you see there's like, oh, there's blue and green, and then blue and green. And like, you see that and you're like, okay, I get it. I get it. If I want to go downstairs, I go this way. You see what I mean? So you don't have to have a sign. Like, yes, the sign functions. Yes, the sign tells you where to go. But you can make the architecture tell you where to go without using the sign. You can do that. You just have to be a little bit thoughtful about it. Yeah, I guess that's what I want to say about that. I don't know. I feel a little bad because I feel like, oh, he's nitpicking the architecture, but no, it could be better. It really could be better, you guys. A lot of this stuff could be better. It's not bad, but you can see how it could easily be better, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm here for better architecture, alright? What I want is better architecture in video games. Anyway, let's go through here, starting downstairs. So we have a double height corridor, and then we have the outer facade on one side. Again, we have the very interesting window frame holding up the glass. It's the same construction as before. And then we have upstairs corridor, downstairs corridor, meeting rooms on one side. And this black path again, it restarts here. Why doesn't it join up? Anyway, the black path restarts. This little hallway is completely redundant because like this is just the meeting room. It doesn't go anywhere except to the meeting rooms. And you can just have a door there, right? And then you would have a bigger meeting room. That again is a gameplay issue. They make the space a little more complicated for gameplay reasons because there's enemies roaming around there, and this gives you more spaces to sneak around the enemies. Right, so they make the space a bit more interesting to make the gameplay more interesting. But what would really happen is they would just have a door here and a door there, and the corridor wouldn't exist in a real building. Over here the stairs come down again. There's probably too many stairs. And then come around here, there's another meeting room over here, right? Another meeting room, okay. The corridor follows the edge of the building around here, and then there's like a big open space here for no particular reason, and then that's the elevator down to the VIP suites. Right, so that's the bottom floor. Let's go up to the upper. Oh, you may notice that the big corridor space, it's bigger than the meeting rooms. This space is more corridor than meetings. Even though it's supposed to be a space for meeting rooms, the corridors are bigger than the meeting rooms. Inefficient, but again for gameplay reasons, because the whole point, like the gameplay is not about meeting rooms. The gameplay is about there's enemies in the corridors and you have to sneak past the enemies to get to the VIPs. So that's why the corridors are so big, because that's the gameplay. And the meeting rooms really are just there for decoration. And maybe you can sneak through the rooms to sneak past the corridors. So it's a gameplay thing, but again it's like incomprehensible. But there's more incomprehensible bits. If you're trying to look for an architecture that actually makes sense. Because if you go upstairs, the circulation is incredibly convoluted. Like here, why doesn't this just go straight through? So this path, there's a quote-unquote meeting room here, but it's just an office because it's too small to fit the meeting room table. The conference table is too big to fit into the space because the room's too small. And the reason the room's too small is because the corridor goes to the side a little bit. And then there's another room here. Right, another... Okay, this is a lounge. So it's just a chair and a TV, okay. So we have a lounge. And then the corridor comes here, and then there's this bit that doesn't do anything. logically, you would just have the corridor go straight through, and then into the stairs, right? But they put this here, an extra stairs. So in the game, if you play through the level, I think what happens is if you don't have enough staircases, the AI gets confused. Because it's a split level, and the audio or like the sound clues, the enemies can hear you above and below, right? Because it's open. And so if they can hear you but they can't pathfind to you, then the AI just doesn't do anything. They just kind of look around and then they get confused and then they go back to what they were doing. And so in order for the enemies to be able to respond to you making noise, the AI has to be able to pathfind their way to you. And so there's way too many stairs because otherwise the AI can't pathfind to you. Or they take so long to get to you that it doesn't make any difference. Like, it doesn't matter. So I think the stairs are for gameplay purposes, and not even for your gameplay purposes, but for the AI to be able to reach you in time for there to be consequences if you make too much noise. Does that make sense? Like, if the architecture was logical, then the AI would not respond quick enough, and then sneaking through this place would be too easy. Right? And so because of the AI issues, I think it's because of that, you have corridors that don't join up. Right? Upstairs here, like, this doesn't join up. Like, this bit is super awkward. Why isn't this just one room and the corridor goes down one side? Imagine if the corridor just goes straight through here, and then this whole thing is one big meeting room, right? There's a meeting room here, which I guess that's the table is flush against the wall because there's not enough space. And there's a corridor on, well, that doesn't join up. The part that joins up is on this side, right? And then another staircase. You see how many staircases there are? Another staircase that goes back down, right? And then another corridor. And then here, our destination is actually there. But to prevent you from just sneaking past everything and going straight to the exit, they block off the exit to force you to go that way, so then you have to deal with those enemies. You can't just sneak behind them. But there's this. There's a locked door here. If you have the key, you can open the locked door and it comes out there behind them. So it lets you sneak behind them, but only if you have the key. So you see how all these spaces, they make sense for gameplay purposes, but obviously they don't make sense for a convention center, because there's like hidden doors and blocked corridors and stairs that go nowhere, and then the convoluted, and so like it's incredibly bad architecture as a conference center. But it's a challenge, it's a puzzle for gameplay reasons, right? Yeah, making bad architecture for good gameplay. So we have another meeting room, right? Okay, cool. And this is supposed to be a meeting room, but again, it's more like an office. Alright, another meeting room, great. And then there's these little leftover spaces. They put a little lounge, a little sitting area here. I guess you would want lounges in a convention center. There's a maintenance room, it's just a bunch of old furniture. And then like another lounge area. Where am I? Am I lost? No. Okay, there's another meeting room here. A little bit lost. Okay, another meeting room. It's so convoluted. And then we have toilets. Remember what I said earlier about the copy and paste toilets. So here is the previous toilet, copy and pasted here. So one guy made one set of toilets, male and female, and they copy and pasted the same toilet in different places. and like the architecture inside the toilet doesn't match any of the other spaces ever. I mean, okay. It's not the guy who made the toilet. The guy who made the toilet was told to make the toilet and he did. Fine. It's a process problem. Whoever is in charge of the design process, I guess it'll be the head designer. And the head designer is not really a designer. The head designer is more like a coordinator. Whoever's in charge of coordinating the artists just didn't do a very good job. Because it's so uncoordinated. It's so uncoordinated. Maybe they didn't even have a coordinator. You know what? Sometimes you put a team together and you just forget to put someone in charge. And so no one's coordinating. Sometimes that happens. And you might think that's a good thing because, we're democratic. We don't have a leader. We just decide by consensus how we... No, you need someone coordinating. You really do. You really do. You might hate it. You might hate that guy who keeps telling you what to do. You might hate the guy who says you can't use this ceiling, you have to use that other ceiling in your toilet. Like, you might hate that guy because he keeps telling you to do things that you didn't want to do. But you need like if you want a coherent vision, you actually need somebody coordinating all the work. And I'm just not sure there is that guy here coordinating all this stuff. Like, everyone's just doing their job. And they're all competent. It's just that when they come together, it's not coordinated. they're all competent people. It's just no one was coordinating. Alright, another meeting room. So all these meeting rooms, they're just forgettable. So we have let's just jump back down. So we have basically a glorified corridor filled with enemies. And then you have to either sneak your way through or fight your way through. And then you go to the next part, which is the VIP suite, which is in an elevator. The elevator, I think, takes a while to come, if I remember right. You press the button, it takes a while for the elevator to arrive, and the idea is you have to actually, you can't just, run out. You do actually have to deal with the enemies before you can make your way out of here. And then VIP room. Again, for gameplay reasons, because the VIPs are your objective, the objective is all the way behind all the enemies, right? Gameplay makes sense. As a building, as a convention center, there's no way you're gonna ask your VIPs to walk all the way past every single meeting room and then take an elevator and then walk back. We're going back? Walk back into your VIP suite. Like, why are you making the VIPs walk all that distance? There's no way VIPs enjoy walking, because they're rich people, right? So, in reality, the entry to the VIP suite would be much closer to the front door. Instead of being all the way at the back, and then you go down and you turn around. You turn around. You don't just go down and go there, you go to the end and turn around. Right, so completely convoluted, completely incomprehensible as a real building. But it does make perfect sense as a video game level. Only for video game purposes. And then this is completely different, look at this. The styling of this room is completely different from everything else. The VIP suite. This is a different person. A different person made this room than all the other rooms. And it's like it's a lot more colorful. Oh, blue and green. Oh, look at that. Remember me talking about blue and green? Blue and green and yellow and bright and lights and everything is like super futuristic, really shiny, so much more interesting than everything else in the whole building. So a whole different person made this. Maybe like the artist made this. But again, like it's uncoordinated, right? Like it's completely different from everything else. There's no explanation for why the VIP area looks like this and everything else is a completely different style. Remember in the reception hall? There were shiny floors there too, but it was a different kind of thing. It was a different pattern, it was different colors. So they don't have a consistent color scheme, they don't have a... uncoordinated. More pictures of Rabia, but they're different pictures. They're not the same Rabia as we saw elsewhere. And there's a bar. There's a bar in the VIP suite. Okay, so this is the VIP suite. It's just a rectangular room, but it's bright and shiny. And then back here in a hidden door, oh, secret doors. In a hidden door, there's another kitchen. So here, this makes sense, right? So you have the VIPs out there drinking and eating, and you're back here preparing the food, and you take the food out to the VIPs right away, right? You're so close. So the location of this kitchen makes a lot of sense. And that's because there's no cutscene here. This is not a, it's not a gate. And there's like a corridor that only leads between those two. So this is weird. I mean, if they were like blocked doors that suggest the corridor goes elsewhere as well, that would make a lot more sense. But this just goes around in a loop. And then there is the exhibition center. The back door. We're not going through the back door. I'm gonna go through the front door into the exhibition center. So I'm gonna... exhibition hall. So I'm gonna go around and backtrack. Alright, I hope you're gonna put up with me while I backtrack. I could just go in the back door, but I don't want to. Because the front door is how people are supposed to go there. Right, so I do want to experience the front entrance, which means we have to backtrack through all of this. Alright, run. If you play through the game, you would go one way or the other, right? You would, like, go to the VIP place, take the back door and go to the exhibition hall. Or you go to the exhibition hall first, and then take the back door into the VIP place. Or that's the smart way to play. But if you do that, you kind of miss out on half the architecture. Anyway, so we're back in the reception hall, and then at the end of the reception hall, there's the path to the exhibition hall and the elevators. Coming out here, we have another corridor. So again, this architecture, this kind of triangular panels on the ceiling, the yellow couches, the overly complicated window frame. You know, I mean, this window frame, okay, it's something you do to make your building look futuristic, I get it. But if you talk to real architects who use these shapes, they often like have a lot to say about it. Should I go on a tangent? This is a long video anyway. Federation Square in it's in Melbourne, right? Federation Square in Melbourne. So one of the buildings... So this building here, see this? Oh, look, triangular panels. And you might think, oh, well, it's triangular panels. But this triangular panels is different from the triangular panels we have in game. Like, mathematically, Like, where is it? Where's that? Where's that facade? This facade. Well, not this facade. I guess it's a similar thing. But the shape of it is, you know what? It's kind of similar. But there's fewer sharp triangles. I mean, the sharpest triangle looks like this. And here the sharpest thing is this. This is a little too sharp. And you see how that point ends at a flat bit? I don't know, structurally, yeah, no, dubious. You know what? Never mind what I was gonna say. The other building next to it, can I look? Is there like a close-up of the other one? This one. Oh, it's a tiny... Oh no, there you go. If you look at this, it's actually the same triangle tessellated in a complex pattern, but there's only one triangle. They're not different triangles. They're the same triangle. But there's different colors, and some of it is missing. And so there's this pattern, there's this pattern, there's this pattern. And so it creates these, irregular shapes. But if you look at the actual triangles, it's the same triangle. So when you mass produce this, you're making one shape over and over again. You're not making multiple shapes, you're making only one shape. But when you assemble them, then you can create a lot of different shapes. You can create like actual squares. And then you have squares and triangles and pentagons, and you can create all sorts of different shapes. But when you look closely, it's only one triangle. So geometrically, this is very interesting. Like mathematically and geometrically, this is very interesting. And because it's all the same shape, you can mass produce that one shape, so it's not that expensive to make. Because it's all the same, right? So this is incredibly clever. Like you make, it's like you're not losing the economies of scale from mass production, but you're gaining this very complex pattern at the end. This very kind of abstract, complex pattern, even though you're just using the same shape over and over again. So this is extremely clever. Mathematically, geometrically, and in terms of construction and economics, very clever. You're making something that seems very complex, but actually it's very simple. Like it's more complex than it seems. Whereas this is kind of just complex. So it's not. I don't know if I don't know if you understand the difference. But the thing, look, the idea is, I guess this also is the same thing over and over again. I've talked about how you can see repeating shapes in here, and so it's just like one module over and over again. But that triangle in Federation Square, it's simpler than this. But the outcome is more complex than this. Like when you get the final thing, you have different colors. This is only one color, right? It's only one thing. It's only the frame and the glass. Whereas in the Federation Square, there's multiple colors, and so then you get a lot of different shapes. Anyway, it's less clever than the one in Federation Square, is what I mean. It's not a big deal. It's just I appreciate smart stuff, that's all. Alright. Okay, so from the reception hall, there's a corridor and a red carpet area. Alright. Drinks. I don't know if there should be drinks out here, because there's no one out here. And what, all the ice has melted? All the ice has melted and the drinks are still out. And in the corridor, another red carpet area, and that's the elevator. I think that's meant to be the main elevator into this part of the building. The elevator seems a little too small, because you see the width of this corridor. The width of the corridor is an indication of how many people they expect to go through it. Right? When you design a building, you don't just make wide corridors for no reason, because they cost money. right? Like the corridor is floor space that you can't rent, so it's dead space. So like you know, as a developer, you want to minimize the amount of space that you can't make money from. You can't make money from the corridor. So if you have a wide corridor, it's not because you enjoy paying money for it. It's because you need a wide corridor because there's a lot of people walking back and forth. And so the width of the corridor suggests that you expect a lot of people to walk through here. And indeed, because there's a reception hall on one end and an exhibition hall on the other, you know, you might have like thousands of people go to the exhibition hall for a big exhibition. And so this is a corridor sized for thousands of people. That makes sense. But if the corridor is sized for thousands of people, the elevator is not sized for thousands of people. Right? So you would expect the elevator to be huge, or maybe there'll be several elevators to have, you know, to bring in enough people to justify the wide corridors. Because otherwise, if you don't have that many people, then the corridors don't need to be so wide. So that's the kind of thing you think about if you were a real architect. So like there should be like a bank of elevators, or like maybe like a corridor, and it's just kind of 4 or 6 or 8 elevators, and so then you have a lot of people going up and down. And that's not unusual. Like you go into a big building, there'll be like the atrium, and then there'll be like 8 elevators or 10 elevators, right? It's, you know, you go into any big skyscraper and there's like a lot of elevators. So it's not uncommon at all. It's just that I don't know why they didn't do it here. And then the corridor exhibition hall is that way. There's a bit of a dead space here, but I guess you could have a waiting area. A waiting area here does kind of make sense. Like if imagine you're waiting for the exhibition to start, or maybe you're waiting for a friend or something. So it is actually good to have like waiting areas like this. Oh, drinking fountain. And then in here we have a temporary Santo advertisement inside the corridor. We open up into this, interesting lighting, and then we have coat check. This is not a coat check for thousands of people. So the size of the corridor suggests thousands of people. This is maybe 100 people max. Coat check. How big is a coat check in a proper convention center? Like a big convention center can hold tens of thousands of people, right? You go to a big convention, there's like, oh, tons of people. How big is the coat check for like a big convention? Huge, right? Like 10,000 people? 20,000 people? What I'm trying to say is, like, scale matters. Because you can just look at a space and see how many people would fit in it. Or, I mean, if you were an architect, or if you were like, you know, somebody trained to do that, you would just kind of look at a space and say, okay, there's a space for 1,000 people. And then you would like, okay, how many toilets do you need for 1,000 people? How much kitchen space do you need? How much coat check space do you need? Like, you know, how much seating would you need if there are 1,000 people here and a certain percentage of them want to take a rest? So that you just think about the number of people and the size of the hallways and everything else. How many elevators? Like, as an architect, you just kind of look at a space and you think, you know, it's just numbers, man. Just these people, how many people, and the size of the spaces. And like a lot of this doesn't quite line up. Like there's not enough elevators, the coach is a little too small. Either that or the hallway's a little too wide. It's a bit odd. Oh, toilets. Guess what the toilets look like on the inside. Ah, you guessed it's the same as the other ones, didn't you? It's the same toilet. Copy and paste it. Right, and then down here we have welcome, 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 welcome. Another red carpet area. Are there that many celebrities here? Another red carpet area, and then the convention hall, or the exhibition hall is in there. 3 doors. So you see how they're they're planning for a lot of people. They have enough doors for a lot of people to go in and out at the same time, but they don't have enough elevators. So where did all these people come from? If they only come out of the elevator this much at a time, then why do you need 3 of those in this space? Like the flow of people is like a hose, right? Like if you have a big pipe and a small pipe and a big pipe, the water flow is only going to be the small pipe, even though you have a big pipe at either end. Because you have a constriction in the middle, that's the water flow. It's the same with people. If the elevator is this big, then you're only ever going to have this many people going through at once. And it's an elevator. The elevator is not continuous. It comes, lets people out, and it goes down, and it brings more people. So it's not even that many people in the hallway. It's just like, you know, because it's not continuous. So to justify 3 giant doors, I mean, maybe I'm being too repetitive here, but to justify the 3 giant doors, you need a lot more elevators. Anyway, let's go in the exhibition hall. The exhibition hall is not really an exhibition hall. The exhibition hall is the boss fight arena for the final boss in the game. And so, as a boss fight arena, it's really good space. Look at this. So what's going on? You come in here, you're a little bit elevated. In the middle there's an open space where if you want to run and gun, you can run and gun. There's also a little bit of cover, right? There's cover there, there's cover there. There's a lot of little bits of cover, so if you want to do some cover-based shooting, you want to like duck in the cover and pop out, shoot a little bit, duck in cover, you can do that. And then further back, there are other spaces, like there are rooms. You can go upstairs, and there's like little areas you can sneak around. So if you want to do stealth gameplay and sneak around, there's plenty of spaces to sneak around, right? So for a Deus Ex game, there's an open space for run and gun, there's cover for cover-based shooting, and then there's sneaking areas. So you can play through the final boss fight however you want. It's actually a pretty well-designed space. You might notice there's like drones and turrets, so there's a lot of drones and turrets walking around. And then of course the final boss. So it's a pretty great boss fight arena actually. You know, like it's a good fight arena. If you're wondering how I deal with the boss, what I've done is, he's back there. See the little pointer? I have blocked him into a little maintenance room back there behind those boxes. I blocked him in there to stop him from interfering with our architecture tour. Alright, so as a boss fight arena, pretty cool. As an exhibition hall, it is a terrible exhibition hall. 1, it's too small. 2, there's too much clutter. So what an exhibition hall usually is, it's just a big empty space. If you've been to an expo, the hall itself is a giant empty space, and then inside the space, the exhibitors would set up their own display areas, right? You just bring in temporary screens and partitions and whatever stuff, and you would set that up, and then you would present your goods, like sell things, meet your customers, and then you would dismantle the whole thing. And so the idea of the exhibition hall itself doesn't really do anything. It's a big flexible space that you can use however you like. That's what an exhibition hall usually is. So this for 1, it's too small, and 2, there's just too much stuff in the way, right? So it's not actually an exhibition hall, but it's a great arena for a boss fight. That's really all I have to say about it. There are some displays down here. We have some Rabia models, as before. Again, you're not really sure what these buildings are. It's a tower. This could be residential, it could be commercial. You're not really sure. Is that a shop? And like, how big is that? Anyway, what's the scale? You can't tell what the scale is. Architecture models and drawings. Usually, you draw a person, and you have a little model of a person, and the person gives you a sense of scale, right? So like, how big is this? We're not sure. Is this 1 floor? Because when you have horizontal stuff like this, it suggests that every horizontal line is a floor. But if this is a giant tower, then this is not a floor. And how wide is this road, for example? So there's no scale, and we don't know. We can't read any of this because there's no scale. Like if this is one floor, then this is just a big house. Whereas if this is one floor, then this is a giant tower. You see what I mean? You can't read these because there's no human scale in here. And this, so these walkways, presumably these are pedestrian walkways. So I think this is meant to be, like, if that's a pedestrian walkway, then these are huge buildings. It's a huge building. It's big enough to be like a university, or like a campus for one of these tech companies, like a Google campus or something, right? It's like if that's a pedestrian bridge, a person is about that big. Alright, so that could be like a big campus, education or company campus. And in here, are those stairs? Or are they not? Because if those are stairs, a person is that tall, they would bump their head there. So those can't be actual stairs. Like, how big is a person? Are those railings? Is a person... If those are railings, then that's too short for a person to fit into. I'm looking at this way too closely. Is that a door? Okay, so this is a door. We're gonna assume there's a door, so a person is about that tall. So this is a house? But then the front door's too low. I'm looking at this way too closely, okay. I'm having a good time though. And then this is a... So that's a house. Okay, I figured one of these out. This looks like a taxi stand. You come in and you go around, right? This could be like a taxi stand. And you transition into a train station? Maybe? Is that like an underground? Okay, I'm gonna stand on the model. So this is like a highway underneath here, right? Is that right? And then you kind of come off the highway and there's a taxi stand, and then what's underneath there? Like, what's this? So you don't get to do this with real architecture models because you can't stand inside them. I'm so interested. Is that like a subway? Anyway, this could be like a transport interchange. It could be. Not sure. I'm not even sure if the person who made this stuff actually thought this closely about any of this. I'm looking at this really closely. I mean, this is like an entrance building. I don't know what that is. Shopping center? Could be. Okay, that's enough of architecture models. Back here with a big panorama. A panorama window. Oh, notice here we don't have the fancy window frame anymore. I'm not sure why actually. Nothing's holding up the glass. The glass isn't even bolted to each other. Why is the window frame missing? Where's the window frame? You had a window frame. And look at this. Are those the connections for the window? It is. Those are the connections for the window frames to be bolted into the columns. And they just didn't put it in. Look, are those... Hold on. Nothing's holding up the glass. I'm telling you, man. Look, the person who made this space didn't talk to the other guys. Like, they found the glass assets, and they just didn't understand the window frame assets, and they just kind of left it out, right? Or maybe they took it out because it was blocking the panorama. That's also possible. So in the game, the boss, you're the bad guy, is standing here looking at the towers, and his plan is to blow up the towers and kill a lot of people because he's a bad guy. And so the you know, the scene is he's like looking out these windows. Maybe the complex window frame was blocking the view, and so they took it out for theatric reasons. But obviously, architecturally, it doesn't make any sense because there's nothing holding up the glass anymore. The glass should not stand like this. I mean, they're just sloppy. Sloppy. I don't know. It's like they didn't take it as seriously as I am. I mean, okay, I mean, you decide. You decide how to feel about this. I just wish it came together a little better, right? And like they're kind of close, but it just seems like they don't care enough. It's like, oh, wow, who cares? No one's gonna notice that the window frames are missing. You know what I mean? It's like they're underestimating the player. It's like, oh, who cares? Like, just take it out. It looks better without it anyway. Instead of like trying to figure out, okay, how can we hold up the glass and also make it look the way we want? Like, how can we have this scene where the guy's looking out the window and we can see the stuff outside, and also have the window frame still hold up the window? How can we have both? Instead of like solving the problem, they just you know, phoned it in. It's what it feels like. And you know, I do understand that game development, often there's not enough money and not enough time, and you put a lot of people under pressure to do really good work with not enough time, and it's actually like kind of bad, the whole game industry. In architecture too, by the way. It happens a lot in architecture as well. There's a lot of demands and very little money. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know. It could be better, but maybe they just didn't have the time and money. Like, it's not necessarily their fault, is what I mean. It could be a lot of things. Anyway, more models. Let's go upstairs. So, like, there's this empty space back here that doesn't do anything. There's nothing space back here. Why is this here? Yeah. So, gameplay reasons, it's more spaces to sneak around. But obviously, in a real building, in an exhibition hall, you would want more exhibition space. So you wouldn't have dead space like that, you would just have... You would move the staircase into the wall and then just have more open space for exhibitions, right? Up here we have a bit of a walkway, sitting area, and office. I guess you do need somebody in charge of the exhibition area. So office up there, bit of a storage thing here. This is a security room. There's a gun cabinet, there's security monitoring stations, and there's also a big window for you to keep an eye on whatever's happening down there. So this makes a lot of sense. Security room. And then on the other side, oh, there's no connecting walkway up here. Even though, wait a minute, why is there no walkway up there? Oh, right. So the room is here, and then there's a gap here. Even though they could have just put a walkway up there, but they didn't. That's not a real walkway. And then over here, staircase again. This is a room. A little sitting room, not sure why it's there. Or what its purpose is. Upstairs, we have... This is a bar. Coffees and desserts. Dom's Creamy Cappuccino. Who's Dom? Sla's Medium Roast. Mama Mary's Good Morning. Lur's Late Night Slack. So these are probably the names of the artists. But anyway, there's a bar up here, although there's not much alcohol or coffee. There's like a little bit here. And there's a little bit of seating and a little bit of a standing bar. Do you have bars in real exhibition halls? I don't think you do. I guess you might have a catering area. Would the catering area be permanent or temporary? I don't know. I guess could be either. Anyway, we have a bit of a bar up here, and then the staircase goes back down the other side. So like there's a lot of staircases, and they don't act— oh crap. The boss escaped. I don't know how the boss escaped. Okay, well I guess I'm gonna end the architecture here. So the tour is pretty much over anyway. I was gonna walk downstairs and summarize. So let me summarize here. Okay. So that's the Apex Center. In terms of the spatial layout, it really is just like a— I should probably hide somewhere. Hold on, let me— can I get out of here without him spotting me? No. Alright, so he spotted me. Let me try and run away. I'm not sure I'm gonna make it though. Alright, I made it. Sneaking away. Alright, we got it back. Okay, so the Apex Center, we need to think of it as basically a gameplay level that has been cosmetically like made into a convention center. But the convention center really is just skin deep, right? It's not— the layout of it don't really make sense. The spaces don't really make sense. Like it's gameplay areas designed for sneaking and stealth, and maybe combat. And then they've put like a thin flavoring of a convention center over it. Like a lot of the spaces are in the wrong places, the wrong shapes, the wrong sizes. But ultimately, like, I don't blame a video game for prioritizing gameplay, because ultimately a game is a game, right? It should be fun to play first of all. But it does mean that the architecture is not that convincing if you pay attention to it, right? In terms of the styling, like everything here is kind of— it looks about right. It's kind of shiny. It looks futuristic. But then there aren't any like really clever architectural innovations. Like there's nothing very clever about it. Like it's all there, and superficially it looks right. But if you look deeply, there's not much substance to it. And again, it's a video game. It's not real architecture. So if there isn't a lot of substance in the architectural design, I guess we can't complain too much. But I just feel like it could be more, but it isn't. And I guess that's how it is. Alright, so the main game of Mankind Divided ends here. But there are 3 DLCs, and we will look through the architecture of the 3 DLCs as well. So there's 3 more videos after this. In the next video, we are going to visit the Tavos security headquarters. So that's the next one. Before I finish off though, should we go finish this this final boss? I was gonna just ambush him inside the little room that I locked him in. I'm not sure how he came out actually. Maybe I just spent too much time here. So let's go ahead and knock this guy out, shall we? Oh, his AI is just glitched. Maybe after enough time, he just, like, teleports to you or something. I don't know how he managed to get out. Yeah, no, he just glitched out. Can I get to him without him seeing me? Is this gonna make noise? What's the best way to approach this? I don't know if I'm gonna make noise if I land here. Alright, so his AI is glitched out. Got him. Alright. And that's the end of the video. I'll see you next time.